I mean, there really has never been and there never will be a Black freedom struggle without Black music being at the center of it.
Yes, sir.
To just keep us fortified, keep our souls determined, and also just keep a sense of humor and the laughter along with the tears. And the music has always been at the center. No Martin King without the centrality of Mahalia Jackson. There's no SNCC without Curtis Mayfield. We can go all the way to Chuck D, Public Enemy, and Tupac, all of them crucial voices as it connected to whatever form the Black freedom struggle was taking at the time. And for you to be there, the grand artist that you are right at this moment where it's not just Black Lives Matter, but there's so many young folk who really are awakened now and on the move, straightening their backs up. That makes a very important difference to bring your artistry there. It really does.
It does. Like you say, music is the soundtrack of the time. I was having a conversation with Earth Gang, one of the members of Earth Gang the other day. We were saying, you know, we have our Malcolms and our Martins and, you know, our Tamika Mallory's, but in the same way as we had Aretha and Mahalia and James Brown, we need our Kendrick Lamars, you know, our Rhapsodies, you know. Everybody has a lane and a space in the movement. And music, like you say, we capture the feeling, the hurt, but we also have to capture the joy, you know, to feed us to keep going every day. So that's beautiful that you said that.
Yeah.
Oh, that is so very true.
And you know,
and now more than ever, because you see, I would argue that there's a spiritual war going on against young Black people.
Yes.
To try to dumb down the music, act as if we're not a complicated and complex group of human beings who respond with tremendous creativity and compassion. And you got oligarchs and plutocrats in the recording industry who just in it for money, trying to make their cash and so forth. And everybody got to make money. We understand that, but greed is one thing, and trying to make money and be responsible something else. And so the artists like yourself who become the real conduits and the caretakers of the best of our tradition, which is the best tradition in the modern world, the Black musical tradition, you have a heavier burden.
Yes.
Even Curtis Mayfield, when they were doing it in the 60s, they had a whole wave of artists who were able to do it because the industry had not been so thoroughly commodified to such a degree that the folks couldn't have their own voices. And of course, we had a lot of independent ownership there with Kurt Dunn and others. So that does that make sense though, Sister Tricia, what I'm talking about?
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt, the pressure that, you know, someone like Rhapsody is under, you know, I'm not even going to talk about gender yet. I'm going to give that another 10 minutes before I go there. but the pressure that an artist who wants to be free, right? Like the song really expressed at its core with Denise Williams'
That's right.
song, right, is about how to be yourself, how to take the art form seriously, not cave into faddish sounds, not cave into basically white supremacist thinking about Black subjectivity. That is very hard to do. But the other thing that's amazing about the tradition, and especially about hip hop, is the power of improvisation, right? And what I can imagine in the settings you're going to be having with these young people is a kind of improvisational creation of a way of putting to music and putting to words the experience and conditions that they're facing. And it's in that act of creation that I think a lot of that kind of market pressure can be pushed off. Yes. And so I'm hoping that there'll be a lot of space for that, for all of you to really, to get in the cypher, you know, and just, you know, enjoy what you can make in the moment, because it's in that play that you imagine new things, at least for me, right? Is when you're not doing exactly what's being expected, that you have your own sort of political surprises, your emotional surprises. So I hope they give you a lot of time for you to show your magic.
No, they are, and I'm so excited about it. And you're right, that's where the best music is made, is from the most honest, most open, creative. You just have to feel and let that come out. And a lot of times the industry likes to narrow the scope of what we're supposed to create, how we're supposed to look creating it, and the voice that we have. And it's like, you know, back in the days, we had so much ownership. We had, you know, our mom and pop stores. We had our own radio stations.
That's right.
We had the chitlins. So, you know,
we had our own venues for playing music. Right? Local little clubs with open mic nights.
100%.
That is so true.
So
No,
how do you do it?
but that's why you such a powerful figure, though, Sister Rapture. We don't really have a language to do it, to be true to who you are, because you have decided that you are going to look at music as music. Voices, yes, crucial, and the gender issue is very important in that regard. We've got some towering sisters who are geniuses in the music these days, but very much like early jazz. The early jazz, the greatest singers were women. See, we don't have no black men that come close to Ella Fitzgerald, to Billie Holiday, to Sarah Vaughan, to Carmen McRae. And yet at the same time in hip hop, it is primarily the brothers who take it to the highest level, and yet the sisters are right there with them. But there's a sense in which the brothers still dominate, not because males, we brothers have some kind of gene or nothing, but it's a cultural thing, the way the sisters in jazz were the greatest singers. You know, we had Johnny Hartman and Nat King Cole, but they sit down when they listen to Sarah Vaughan. They just
Well,
know
don't
that.
forget Billy Eckstine now, too.
But Billy sit down when he listened to Billie Holiday.
Yeah, well, of course he did. But, you know, I would argue that, you know, well, let's not go into that. We can have that. We can leave.
No, but I mean, but what Rhapsody is able to do is to allow for that excellence, that brilliance to be manifest from a Lauryn Hill to a Jay-Z to a J. Cole to whoever it is, though. And you see that in Eve, this powerful album. You see that in that album to your grandmother's wisdom. Was it Layla's wisdom?
Yeah.
Oh,
so Rhapsody, tell me, how do you do it, right? Like, what, did you have a master plan? You know, did you have a method to the madness where you said, okay, I'm going to try to enter into this industry, knowing what you know with your creative commitments? You know, what do you do to fortify? Do you have decisions you make? Because, you know, when the pressure is on, you have to have some sense of what you're going to do, because in that moment, the pressure is the greatest, right? So if you don't have a way to think about it, I'm sure you must have a way that you've been planning this way to hold on to your creative spirit in the pressures that you must face.
Definitely. I think the greatest thing that I had was Ninth Wonder and Young Guru, who were my mentors. And the first thing they did before I put out any music was they sat me down and they said, you have to define your line right now. You have to define what you won't do, what you will do, what you won't compromise. Know what you want out of this business first, so you know how to maneuver and make the best decisions. And that was the first thing I had to do. I had to ask myself, who am I? What story am I trying to tell? What do I want out of this music? And once I defined that, you know, the path that we took, we first knew it was going to be a marathon. Anything that you want to last 20 years, you have to build a strong foundation of. You know, and they just mentally prepared me for the long road, for the fight, because it was a fight, you know, to go against all the struggles of being a woman in the industry, making music that, you know, was uplifting and, you know, that made you think, as well as celebrate. So I think that was the biggest thing. Was mentally, I just had to see the long road, and I had to keep the blinders on, and I had to say, this is my end goal, and I know these are the hurdles, you know, these are the decisions that we're going to make. So, you know, we don't have to compromise the art. We're going to put out free music first, so people understand that when we start selling these records, you know what you're getting, you know. You know, so we just try to tailor everything to what the end goal was and what I wanted out of it. And that helped tremendously.